Oh, slow shell velocity gets over that. Big. Oh, yeah. There we go. Oh, the Citadel with HE. It's incredible. That was a 15k salvo into a Vermont, and we got a fire. I mean, that's pretty good. That dispersion's nice. We're on 12k. Double all 9? Bro, what was that damage? Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Scarlet Thunder. As I'm sure you've seen in the armory, this ship is currently available 75% off its Admiral bundle for the next couple of days. If you're watching this in the future, I apologize. That bundle is not available. Wargaming's out here trying to get me to actually like Admiral bundles, is what it seems like. 75% off means that in Canadian dollars, it is just over 32 bucks. For a tier 9 premium ship, that is the best economy you're gonna get in this game, pretty much. I mean, Missouri, if you had old Missouri only. Tier 9s obviously make the most money as they have full premium credit earning income and they are the highest tier. So absolutely great for printing credits. This ship, is it worth it, right? That is the question I'm sure you're thinking about. It's a big discount, yet you've probably heard that it's maybe not the best tier 9 battleship. And well, let me talk to you about its playstyle and you can make up your mind for yourself. It's hard for me, of course, to tell you exactly for your situation whether it's worth it or not, but you need to know that this ship is primarily an HE spammer. British battleship, I think we've grown to expect that. It looks a bit like Duncan, doesn't it? Well, these guns are much more in line with Lion guns, especially when it comes to their high explosive. Not only that, their dispersion pattern as well. This ship has battleship dispersion table. Duncan gets battle cruiser dispersion table. That just means it's more accurate. Although Duncan does struggle with Sigma parameters, 1.6 Sigma, we do get 1.9 Sigma here on Scarlet Thunder. So worst dispersion table here with Scarlet Thunder, that battleship dispersion table, but Sigma can sometimes make up for that. Typically, though, I think the battlecruiser dispersion is going to feel a little bit better for you. But these shells are the Lion's shells when it comes to the HE, so they're better, okay? Scarlet Thunder gets the full 7,200 alpha damage HE. That's why the HE salvos here are so devastating. It is just full Lion Conqueror HE. It's the same thing, 419 millimeter guns here. So that means you also get the pen values, 105 millimeters of pen. Yes, that means citadels. Into some very specific light cruisers. That citadel needs to be exposed, no space armor, and under 105 millimeters. But it is possible. And with a fire chance of 48%, we are getting some very consistent fires out of it. Duncan, for example, gets 47% fire chance. Not much difference there, you're not going to notice that. But only 70 millimeters of pen. It does not have the quarter pen values that the Scarlet Thunder and Lion have. This is a big advantage, but 70 millimeters of pen is typically going to be enough. It's really going to be a few upper belts that you'll get through with Scarlet Thunder that you would not otherwise do with Duncan. For the most part, it's going to feel pretty similar pens versus shatters. Something I did notice, though, and you probably will as well, is the alpha damage. Okay, 6,150 alpha damage is what Lion has. 7,200, more than 1,000 more alpha damage on this HE is certainly a big deal. Now, these ships all have pretty similar reload. 30-second reload here on Scarlet Thunder, 29.5-second reload on Duncan, 29-second reload on Lion. So similar that you're probably not going to notice it. The nice thing about Scarlet Thunder, though, is retaining the firing angles off of the Duncan. 31 degrees forward, 30 degrees backwards. Duncan is 30 and 30, but basically the same. Lion has a big problem with firing angles, okay? This ship has 44 degree forward firing angles and 47 degree rear firing angles. You are showing an exposed citadel anytime you want to fire all of your guns. Speaking of, yeah, that Duncan citadel has not been changed here, so one of the largest exposed above water citadels in the game. Lion's is still exposed, but this one is much more of a problem. At least, though, we can keep it relatively angled. And we get full 32 millimeters of bow and stern plating that Duncan does not have. The problem, though, is we don't get a super heal, okay? 32 millimeters of armor everywhere is not great at tier 9, especially considering the up tiers that we often find ourselves in. A lot of HE gets through that, and a lot of armor piercing these days, especially if you happen to find yourselves against super ships. So the armor here, well, better in some ways than Duncan and Lion. It's, in practice, a squishier battleship, okay? I find myself eating more damage, or at least dying a lot sooner, just because I can't heal back through quite so much. The guns here are quite consistent with that HE, but you have to be a little bit more careful with it. Fortunately, it does have some maneuverability advantages in form of the rudder shift here. 9.7 second rudder shift on a battleship is kind of insane. Gets to sub 8 second rudder when you take rudder mod, prop mod, or rudder mod, both very good here as a result. For reference, the Duncan has a 16.6 second rudder, Lion's is 15.8. That is a massive difference, and I did notice that. The speed here is decent, 32 knots, but no speed boost. Duncan does get access to an engine boost, 8% only, but it is something that helps that ship to avoid damage as well. The AP, though, we've been avoiding to this topic just a little bit, and that's because it's not very good. I'll use it in just a little bit here, but for the most part, this is going to be a pure HE spammer. And notice we don't have a Witherer yet in this game. We have 164,000 damage and no Witherer yet. That means the alpha damage is doing a lot of the carrying here. Sometimes it feels like with HE, you're reliant on fires. And when you get unlucky with fires, or in this case, we've lit a lot of fires, but perhaps they get damage controlled rather quickly, you don't get the Witherer, you don't get that fire damage, you severely drop off in the amount of damage you're going to get towards the end of the game. That is not the case here. We finally get our Witherer, and with 172,000 damage, it means that we have done over 100,000 just raw alpha damage with high explosive. That's the power. British HE, Battleship HE, is simply the best in the game. It hits very, very hard and is very consistent. You get fires a lot of the time too, but you don't even need that for some very, very nice alpha damage into battleships, even into cruisers. Of course, if you manage to hit a few shells on a DD, that hurts a lot because that is so much damage, and oftentimes will actually deal with a bunch of modules too. So, decent first battle here, but again, not a lot of AP usage. The Immelman going broadside. This is our opportunity. Oh, that's not the best dispersion. So, AP is much more focused on hitting very specific parts of a ship. You guys probably know this, but it's one of the weak points of a ship with maybe not the best dispersion. Battleship dispersion 1.9 Sigma isn't terrible by any means, but it's certainly no battle cruiser dispersion and can feel a little bit inconsistent. The other problem here is the shells that we have. It does have short fuses, which is very nice for when a light cruiser goes flat broadside at 5 kilometers. Without these shorter fuses, sometimes the shells can go right through the ship and just overpen. In this case, we do get citadels, which I am very happy with. However, it's not a lot of damage out of those citadels now, is it? Yeah, that's the problem. 11,500 alpha damage on 419 millimeter main guns. This is around what I would expect out of 380 millimeter main guns for alpha damage. Yeah, that is the downside here, is the AP alpha has been lowered quite a lot. Lion and Duncan are both in that 13,000 alpha damage mark. And, well, we have ships like Montana that have, or Iowa, tier 9 example, but American 406s get 13,500 alpha. So this feels very, very low. And one of the reasons that I'm not using the armor piercing all that much is much more reliant on hitting very specific parts of an enemy ship. And to be honest with you, the alpha damage isn't that much higher than the HE is. And the HE guarantees a lot more full pens, don't gotta deal with overpens nearly as much. Although, you should swap to the HE from time to time when the opportunity arises. Yeah, 4 for 4 citadels on that broadside Duncan. Appreciate him not ramming us, though in this case it makes sense because he had the torpedo advantage. Notice how we were able to dodge his torpedoes there? That's the rudder shift. It feels great to have such a fast rudder shift on a battleship. Very, very powerful. We've all seen what Valparaiso can do. This is not Valparaiso, okay? I maybe shouldn't have even brought that up because it's nowhere near as tanky. But it feels pretty good to have such a fast rudder shift allowing you to dodge incoming torpedoes. Notably though, yeah, we're based on a Duncan hull, but we don't have access to those nuclear torpedoes. They deal nearly 30,000 alpha damage on the Duncan and the Vincent line. We don't have access to that here, so that is a notable disadvantage as well. It's AP focus. I'm trying to shoot a lot more AP in this clip for you guys. It does all right, okay? It's not bad AP necessarily. Short fuses means you get more full pens, which is very nice. But I found dispersion to not be quite consistent enough for me to fully rely on it, especially when that HE is just so consistent. I don't have to try and pinpoint citadels, which are increasingly getting below water these days, or at least waterline these days. And while we have some overmatch, we're not always going to hit the part of the ship that we need to. Rune, we fully overmatch everywhere, and we give them the old car wash treatment, unfortunately. GK secondaries taking us down here. We do get full penned everywhere by them. This is not a brawler battleship. The rudder shift is nice, of course, but this is not a ship that you want to be pushing in with. This is a ship you want to play a little further back with. And yet again, that means it incentivizes the HE playstyle, because AP focused on very specific points of a ship. The farther away you are, the worse that dispersion is going to feel. So just spam HE out of it, which feels a little bad if you guys know me. I'm not the biggest fan of HE spam. It feels a little boring to me, a little bit less satisfying to me. So it's not one that I am particularly interested in, especially considering the lack of ability to play at closer ranges too. I really like to push when the opportunity arises for it. Perhaps when the opportunity doesn't arise, I still try and force it sometimes. This is not a ship for someone like that. It's a ship where you can play at the back of the map. You can play into even some of these up tiers, as we're seeing here, some very powerful ships in the enemy team. And you shoot HE, and you're going to get a lot of damage, and you can survive a decent amount of time at range thanks to this very nice rudder. But you're not having the most battle impact that way. You're a bit of a damage dealer, but that's about it. For 30 bucks Canadian, tier 9 premium, that's pretty tempting, especially considering the prices Wargaming is often charging. If you're just looking for purely the play style here, the gameplay experience, just go grind yourself a Duncan. You're going to get basically the same play style. Lion as well, going for Conqueror line. Pretty similar feel where you're just spamming HE until there's an opportunity with that armor piercing. You're getting overmatched by things like Hanovers, but even like Yamato, for example. You're eating a lot of damage, and those ships will heal back from it much quicker. Scarlet Thunder doesn't have that super heal, so perhaps even from a gameplay perspective, I would prefer those two. Maybe not all the time. Certainly the improvements here to this ship's rudder shift is really nice. I will say also that the turret traverse feels pretty good. 36-second turret traverse. You've been noticing it's pretty nice. Duncan does have a 30-second turret traverse though. Oh, shells land short bug, unfortunately. Even with HE, sometimes the dispersion control you as well as the aim bugs. Yes, that's the other problem with spamming armor piercing is this game's aiming system is a little broken from time to time. So you will have to deal with that too. If you're just spamming HE, well, you just aim center mass, and assuming you don't get really trolled, you should hit and do, a lot of damage. You should hit and do a lot of damage is what I was trying to say. These are the same shells, by the way. Shell velocity feels a little slow, but it is the same shells as what we get on Duncan and Lion as far as shell flight time. So if you're used to those ships, you will be used to this one. 30 bucks though for a tier 9 premium. Think about it in terms of Black Friday, for example. Those ships like John Bart B, Alaska B, they are often available for 70 bucks, I think, something like that. Maybe that's US prices. It might even be closer to 90 Canadian. I'm not sure exactly. But even if it's 60 bucks for a Black Friday tier 9, this is like half the cost of that. That is a very, very nice discount for a ship that is maybe not the best or most powerful tier 9 battleship, but you're still getting that tier 9 credit income. You can get that other ways though too if you don't have very many tier 9 premiums. If you're looking at this as an opportunity to get yourself your first or second tier 9 premium to get you that very nice credit income, you can always just get a coal ship, right? You can always get a, maybe not research bureau ship. Those take a little longer to grind out, as with steel ships too. But coal, just by playing the game, you're going to get a lot of coal, and there are plenty of opportunities there for tier 9s that you can grind a lot of credits with as well. They are also still full premiums in that too. So for Scarlet Thunder, I don't know. From a battleship perspective, this is not one that I personally would be very interested in getting, but it's because it doesn't fit my playstyle and how I like to play the game. I like playing battleships. I don't really care for HE battleships too much. When we get the opportunities for the armor piercing, sometimes it can deliver quite well. Other times, you're going to get dispersion like this one. Broads. I know Hawaii's don't always take damage, but it does have an above water citadel. Here we go. I even aimed high, okay? Notice how high I aimed. And I mean, what are you going to do, right? Maybe just spam HE, right? That's unfortunately what it comes back to with a lot of these British battleships, and maybe why you don't see them as often on the channel. I don't like spamming HE as much. I want, when I find the opportunity for the broadside cruiser, the surely opportunity, I want to be rewarded for that, okay? I'll take that over more damage out of HE. There's a little better. Unfortunately, we do end up missing the Citadel on that opportunity. Swap over to the HE, this time for the St. Vincent. He's already taken a lot of damage, of course, from our team. We get good dispersion in this one too. That's going to help out a lot, but that's going to be over 10,000 alpha damage. It's not quite sap levels, right? There's no like mod Columbo, anything like that, but this is still a ton of alpha damage that is very consistent and not reliant on angle, right? That's the thing about AP. It's not reliant on angle. It's not reliant on hitting a very specific portion of the ship. So Scarlet Thunder can perform pretty well. This was an example of a super ship game. This is about as bad as it gets. Full up tiers. I know there could be subs and carriers and all that stuff, but full up tier for tier 9, and we still managed to get another E out of this one. So it still can be a strong ship. It's not the playstyle that I personally enjoy. But let's talk about the build, which might be a little bit too aggressive considering I was often talking about this ship's survivability weaknesses. But in the past, I remembered playing this ship and not really enjoying it, probably a lot of the time because of its main guns, not feeling like much of an upgrade over anything like Duncan or Lion. In fact, a bit of a side grade or downgrade in a lot of ways, especially armor piercing, which you guys know I like to play. So I wanted to really try and maximize the main guns to make sure I was dealing the damage I was expecting, and then trying to stay alive was the difficult part, of course, still. So not taking fire prevention and still going furious. Probably not the best idea without a super heal. So one of the nice things about Duncan and Lion is we do have that luxury. I went with super heavy AP shells because I wanted that alpha damage, but considering how much this ship is just an HE spammer, you probably don't need to even go with that one. And you could go with something a little bit better, perhaps like a basic survivability. There's a lot of different ways you can go about it, but try to go with standard battleship builds as much as possible if you're newer to it. Maybe try speccing into the full gun thing if you find the guns to be a little lacking, especially in that armor piercing side of things. Of course, we're going reload here. We do have great range. 22.2 kilometers is more than enough for this tier, especially considering our 12.2 kilometer detect. And I had to experiment with it. 7.8 second rudder. I had to try it. I do think prop mod is better. You already have great rudder shift, so wanting to spec a little bit more into speed juking, the ability to start and stop a little quicker, alongside your great rudder shift, I think is a better way to go about it. But I had to try the ridiculous rudder shift there. Of course, go aiming systems, damage control mod. And then I went with the extra damage control time here. Getting that immunity time up over 20 seconds is pretty nice, I will say. Armor looks like this, 32 everywhere. And while that's a nice thing over Duncan, you still have that Duncan Citadel problem. It's gigantic. Oh my goodness. It is such a huge Citadel. Very exposed, very easy to get dev struck in a ship like this one, and you don't have a super heal to help you come back from that. Now, if you're watching this within a few days of being posted, this is still an option for you. For 30 bucks, I mean, this feels very strange, right? Considering the price that we normally see on tier 9s. Look at this one. This isn't even a rare ship like Scarlet Thunder is designated as. This is a very expensive ship, the Aberdeen Admiral Bundle. So, you know, value-wise, it's hard for me to say, okay? It's very hard for me to say. If you're a collector, you probably already bought it now. But if you're looking for tier 9s and credit earners, that kind of thing, this is a chill backline HE spammer. I am not as interested in that playstyle personally. And I think you can get a lot of ships for coal that are also very, very good credit earners at tier 9. But that said, this is still a great opportunity to get yourself a tier 9 for a very reduced cost. I'm not sure what Wargaming is doing with this. I was very surprised when I saw this in the armory. I had no advance notice of this. Maybe they're testing out to see what the difference is in the number of people buying a specific ship. Hopefully they're comparing this ship to the previous time it was offered for the full Admiral Bundle price, maybe. Because I don't think it's the best battleship in the game, and that might skew the results if they're comparing it to a more recently released very good Admiral Bundle. I'm not sure, but that's going to do it for today on the Scarlet Thunder. Let me know in the comments what you think and if you're picking it up. Apologies if this is a few days later and this bundle is no longer available and you were looking for it. Maybe they'll bring it back. I'm not sure what they're testing with this one here, but you don't have to worry too bad, honestly. You didn't miss out on too much. And if it's the play style you want, just go get yourself a Duncan and you'll get basically the same thing. Or better yet, go to the St. Vincent. It's basically the same matchmaker these days, and that ship is very strong. Thank you very much for watching and have a great rest of your day.